Hello. My name is Alice, and I spent the last 10 years in various accounting and finance roles before going out on my own, and now I have my own firm. I primarily work with individuals on financial advisory and financial coaching, and I also work with businesses on the CFO side. In today's video, we're going to talk about a question that I'm sure most people have thought about at one time in their life. How many people are actually millionaires without counting their homes? Now, there are 25 million millionaires in America, but when you remove their house from the equation, that number actually drops down to 6 million. And this completely changed the way that you and I might think about building wealth. So today we're talking about the difference between being a millionaire on paper versus actually having liquid wealth or invested assets, and why this distinction could also be the key to your financial future. So most people think that if your net worth hits $1 million, you are wealthy and you are financially secure, regardless of where that money is tied up. But the data actually shows that 76% of American millionaires would basically lose their millionaire status if you excluded their primary residence or their home equity. And so that actually means that most millionaires are actually house rich, but cash and investment poor. So I will talk about some differences between net worth millionaires and liquid millionaires, and I'll show you exactly what real millionaires own and give you the exact strategy to build liquid wealth instead of just looking wealthy on paper. By the way, guys, I've been working very hard behind the scenes, and I've done a complete revamp and rebrand of all of my social media and my website, my blog, my newsletter. I started posting more on Twitter, Threads. I will be more active on Instagram. And I also officially launched my podcast, which I am about to film my second episode this week. Super excited. I got a super cool guest coming on. Make sure you guys check out the description box below if you want to engage with me on other platforms. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you love me on YouTube. So when you see headlines about, there being 25 million American millionaires, often these headlines are really talking about net worth, which basically includes everything that you own minus what you owe. But there is a huge difference between net worth and liquid wealth. So the data shows that there's approximately 25 million Americans that are millionaires, which approximately makes up 9.5% of all adults in America. And by definition, a net worth millionaire would include home equity, retirement accounts, cars, which are technically not really assets anyways, and pretty much anything that meets the definition of a textbook asset. And then liquid millionaires, on the other hand, which is like basically invested assets typically, or anything that can be converted to cash really quickly, which is usually stocks and cash, makes up only about 6 million Americans, or about 2.3% of adults in America. And of the 6 million, the definition of a liquid millionaire actually excludes your primary residence. It basically just only counts investable and accessible assets. So this gap between people who are millionaires on paper, including their house, but don't have $1 million in actual liquid wealth, that's 19 million people. We have someone here, we're going to call her Mandy the Millionaire. Her house has a market value of $600,000. Her mortgage balance is $200,000, so she's got $400,000 of equity in the house. Her 401k asset value is at $350,000. She's got $50,000 in savings, $150,000 in other investment accounts, and her car, after her loan, is about $50,000. So her total net worth is $1 million. Now, if we looked at just her liquid wealth, that would be her savings of $50,000, her investments of $150,000, her 401k, let's just say the accessible portion, but penalized, is $350,000. Liquid assets about $550,000. She is technically a millionaire, but she only has around $200,000, which is the $50,000 in savings and the $150,000 in investments that are accessible money without any penalties or without having to sell her home. So that's why so many millionaires are actually still financially stressed and don't feel rich or feel like millionaires, because they're wealthy on paper, but they don't have liquid assets to handle emergencies, opportunities, or lifestyle changes without touching their home equity. Okay, so how do we actually track and measure our progress towards becoming a real millionaire? So a lot of people like to track their net worth, and that's totally okay, but here are some additional metrics that do matter as well. Now, speaking of tracking your liquid net worth and becoming a real millionaire, I want to talk about the sponsor for today's video, Empower. So I don't know about you guys, but when you have accounts scattered across different banks and different brokerages, because I'm the type of person who likes to open up a lot of different accounts everywhere, I personally would end up spending a lot of time whenever I wanted to track my net worth to sit down and type out all the different accounts. I remember all my different passwords and et cetera, et cetera. it was just a nightmare to kind of track all this stuff. And then a lot of times it just ended up being in my head or on a spreadsheet. So that's why I was actually really excited when Empower reached out to me. Empower connects all of your financial accounts in one place, and it allows you to automatically track your net worth, your investment performance, and your progress towards your goals. Now, what I like about Empower is that it's just got a very clean user interface. You don't have to be super tech savvy to use it. And you can basically see your entire financial picture in one dashboard. It shows you your liquid net worth separate from your home equity, which is exactly what we talked about. It tracks investment fees. It tracks your investments on a regular basis to see what the changes in prices are. It analyzes your portfolio allocation, and it automatically breaks down your investments and your asset allocation. And it even projects your retirement timeline based on your current savings rate. The coolest feature is the net worth tracker. Okay, the net worth tracker shows you exactly how you're progressing towards millionaire status, and you can see your liquid assets versus your total net worth, as well as just track your overall portfolio against benchmarks and get personalized advice on optimizing your portfolio. The Empower dashboard is used by over 4.4 million people to track over $275 billion in assets. It is the same platform that a lot of financial advisors use, but the basic tracking features are completely free. So if you want to stop guessing about your net worth and use an actual tool to regularly monitor and track your progress and see where you need to go from where you currently are, then make sure you check out Empower. I will leave my link in the description box below as well. You can connect all your accounts in under 5 minutes and see your complete financial picture in one place. So what do real millionaires actually own? What separates paper millionaires from real millionaires? And it's really different from what most people think. According to this article that I'll link down below, true millionaires have at least 70 to 75% of their net worth outside of their primary residence. So let's break down what that actually looks like. So we have the 1 million liquid millionaire portfolio, which primary residence of $300,000, which makes up 25% of this person's wealth. Investment accounts of $400,000. Retirement accounts of $350,000. Business interests of $150,000, cash and emergency fund of $100,000, putting their total net worth at $1.3 million and their liquid net worth at $1 million, which excludes their primary residence. And if we compared that to the paper millionaire, we have primary residence of $700,000, which comprises of 70% of their wealth, investment accounts of $100,000, retirement accounts of $150,000, cash of $50,000, which puts their total net worth to be $1 million, but their liquid net worth to be $300,000. The key difference is real millionaires, they basically have diversified wealth across multiple asset classes, and paper millionaires have most of their wealth tied up in their home. Real millionaires can actually access their wealth for opportunities. Paper millionaires are essentially trapped by their largest asset. And they actually have limited ability to take risks and make investment decisions just because they are really cash strapped and everything is tied up into the house that they currently live in that they're not generating any income from. So if we were to look at this by income level and we were to break down the liquid millionaire, if they had $100,000 income, it would take about 15 to 20 years of aggressive saving or investing. With a $200,000 income, this might be achievable in 8 to 12 years with proper strategy. And with a $300,000 income, you can probably reach this in 5 to 8 years if your lifestyle doesn't inflate. So real millionaires understand that wealth isn't just about owning expensive stuff. It's also about owning those assets that give you options, that give you freedom. That's why it's called financial freedom, because you are actually free. You're not just a millionaire on paper. In my opinion, financial freedom comes down to 2 things. The financial part, which is like the money part, and then the freedom part, which is like the ability to actually like travel and like go do things and go live life and not just be like trapped down and bogged down by your house, your mortgage, your work schedule, whatever. The dangerous trap that keeps a lot of people from building wealth, and it's actually encouraged by our culture. Americans and Canadians too tend to be obsessed with home ownership, paying off your mortgage, right? This is like what we are always conditioned to believe ever since we are a young age. Society teaches us that this is what a responsible adult does, right? But this obsession actually ends up preventing them from building liquid wealth. Do you ever have that instance where you hesitate to buy something because you're like, oh, I can't do that because I have a mortgage to pay for, or I can't do that because I'm trying to save up for a home? So the other day I was talking to someone who wanted to enroll in a business coaching program. And after a good long conversation of him telling me, how badly he wants to do this and blah, blah, blah. Once we start talking about the investment, he tells me that he can't do it. He can't make the commitment because of the price. And I was like, trying to ask why. And I was trying to understand a little bit more about his situation and why, to see how I was able to help him. And he tells me that, I can't make this commitment because I have a mortgage. And I was like, well, that's great. Like, you are in your 20s. You are obviously doing very well for yourself. You were able to buy this home and you are a financially responsible adult. But just so I'm really understanding, like, do you plan on waiting 25 or 30 years until your mortgage is paid off before you decide to start a business just because you have a mortgage? I'm not judging him. Like, after a conversation, I was like, you just got to promise yourself that you're going to do whatever it takes to make it happen, right? Anyways, I digress. This home equity trap is a real thing. So the responsible homeowner tends to do this, okay? Let's just say they buy a $400,000 house with a 20% down, $80,000. Will always work really, really hard and tell themselves, I put every spare dime of all my savings into my mortgage because that's like what the responsible adult does. After 15 years, they now have $400,000 in home equity because they paid additional $320,000, and they have $200K in other assets. So their net worth is $600K. And their liquid wealth is $200K. So that scenario is of someone who's very financially responsible, or in other words, just very risk averse. The second scenario is what we call the strategic investor. So this is somebody who buys the same $400K with 20% down. They make the minimum mortgage payments, which is totally fine. And they invest the extra payment money into index funds or even higher risk stocks. After 15 years, they have $300K in home equity, $500K in investments. Their net worth is now $800K and their liquid wealth is $500K, okay? So the strategic investor actually has $200,000 more net worth and 2.5 times more liquid wealth. Now, the caveat is that this does depend on where you live and the rise of real estate costs relative to the S&P 500 or, how high index funds are going. If you take a look at how high the stock market is going in the past few years, it definitely far exceeds real estate. I have a video up top here where I talk about the difference between investing in real estate and stocks, and I give a lot of different examples, but generally speaking, real estate is lower risk, lower return, and stocks are higher risk, higher return. But make sure you check out that video up top. The reason why this happens is because investments are also liquid and you can sell them very easily with the touch of a button, and home equity is not. So we tend to celebrate people who pay off their mortgage early, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we should also celebrate and talk about people who build liquid wealth as well. Because, your house is really a shelter that doesn't earn you income unless you rent it out. Don't always let the pursuit of home ownership prevent you from building real accessible wealth. So let's talk about the exact strategy that real millionaires use to build liquid wealth. Now, if somebody came up to me and asked me, Alice, how exactly do real millionaires build liquid wealth? This is what I would recommend. I would highly recommend, instead of focusing on net worth, focus on building liquid investable assets. So let's just call this a 70-30 wealth rule, okay? We have maximum 30% of your total net worth in your primary residence where you actually live, and then a minimum of 70% in liquid investable assets. So if you are working towards something like this, what it would look like in the first 5 years of building your foundation is that you want to have at least 6 months of emergency expenses set up in cash. You want to max out your retirement accounts. So that's $23,000 in your 401k, which is the 2025 limit, and $7,000 in your IRA. You want to start a taxable investment account and buy a modest home or rent and invest the difference. The goal here in the first couple of years is to build at least $100,000 to $200,000 in liquid assets. The second phase is the acceleration phase. It's like years 6 to 10. This is when you can continue maximizing your retirement accounts and consider more aggressive taxable investing, anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 a month. And then this is also when you can probably have a little bit more cash to consider real estate investing. Maybe you start a side business or you start creating additional streams of income for yourself, and you are able to hit $500,000 to $750,000 in liquid assets. And then by years 11 to 15, you'd be able to hit millionaire status. So this is when your liquid assets exceed $1 million. You've established multiple streams of income. You have good asset allocation and diversification. And in my definition, this is basically the definition of true financial freedom. So the goal isn't really to avoid homeownership. It's just to make sure that your home doesn't prevent you from building actual liquid wealth and the actual financial freedom that gives you real options in life. Let's talk about liquid net worth first. So liquid net worth, again, is cash, investments, accessible retirement funds, not subject to any withdrawal penalties or taxes. It does exclude your primary residence and cars. Not really a fan of including cars in general in net worth. And $1 million by age 50 is a great and achievable goal. Next is investment income. So this is any annual dividends they get on your stocks, interest earned, royalties, and realized capital gains. So if you can get to $40,000 annually or 4% of $1 million, you're doing really well, and this can cover all of your basic living expenses. When your passive income exceeds your lifestyle expenses, that basically is the definition of financial freedom. Next is wealth to income ratio. So this is when you take your liquid assets divided by your annual income. And you want to have at least 10 times of this by retirement age. And this basically shows you how you can maintain your lifestyle without working. So if you make $100,000 a year and you have $1 million in liquid assets, that is how you would achieve your 10x target. But this basically shows you how you can maintain your lifestyle without having to keep working. Next is home equity over total net worth. And you want this target to be typically around less than 30%. Because if it's less than 30%, it means that the rest of your net worth is not tied in your home. And this just ensures wealth diversification. If you wonder how you benchmark against other people in the States, I have some statistics for you. If you have $100,000 liquid, then you're actually in the top 20%. If you have $250K liquid, you're in the top 10%. If you have $500K liquid, you're in the top 5%. And if you have $1 million liquid, you're actually in the top 2.3% of people in America. And you are a real millionaire. Now, if you guys like this video today, you're gonna love my other video on how to become a millionaire on low salary. Now, society tends to condition us to believe that we need to make more money, make more money, make more money. And yes, making more money is great, but it doesn't mean that if you have a low salary or a small salary, that being a millionaire is outside of what you can achieve in your life. In fact, in that video, I talk a lot about basic financial habits that if you adopt them, you can basically become a millionaire, even if you do have a small salary. And I also talk about the different time frames, how much you should save, different hacks and shifts for mindset. So make sure you check out that video up top. Let me know down in the comments below what questions you have about being a liquid millionaire versus a paper millionaire. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Until next time.